the round table at Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California. Welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters, the central locations for employees, employers, and you independent contractors. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk, news, and hopefully some answers about WorkCom Matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your WorkCom Matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in with your questions, comments, and or concerns. The phone number worldwide, 818-357-4120. You can send a fax and be old school, 818-475-1437. Send me an email, wcexaminer@aol.com. With me in studio, my right-hand man, Mike Zima, the best-dressed man in California workers' compensation, Mr. Ted Durden, my protege at applicant attorney Robert Ozeron, Scott Walton on the board working out the technical difficulties, back at WorkComp Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Jake Paris. And by the way, I.E. John Scalia, 45-year attorney, halfway around the world in Munich, Germany. I didn't forget you, John. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WorkComp Matters. I'm so proud to be here. And before we get started, gotta plug next week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you're interested in bankruptcy, my special guest attorney, Dave Hagan, is coming on the show, and we're going to be talking about bankruptcy. But tonight, of course, we're talking about Memorial Day heroes. Before we get to our Memorial Day heroes, news of the week, Starbucks has its sensitivity training. Harvey Weinstein, or whatever the heck his name is, he's indicted. Roseanne Barr, she tweets, and she is off the air, folks. Of course, we're talking about the NBA Finals. We've got the California Insurance Commissioner regarding telling insurance carriers to give some rebates and or lessen their fees, or basically charge less. Uber crash in Arizona recreated. Lemonade Insurance, and by the way, if you've never heard of Lemonade Insurance Company, it is the sole artificial intelligence. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Michael. Artificial intelligence insurance. Tesla car crashed with a driver in it, and of course we've also got stories about the homeless, U.S. employers ordering fewer marijuana screenings and clearing out the marijuana convictions. But we're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the number one computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out concert, sports, theater tickets, yes, folks, even front row. I've known Brian for 20 years. Him and I are on a handshake agreement. He's at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. But I told the guys tonight it would be appropriate, since we're post-Memorial Day 2 days, to talk about our Memorial Day heroes. And I basically, the premise that I put, they didn't have to die in the war, but basically comment on someone that's passed on that has been important to their lives. And I immediately, one person came to my mind, and clearly, without him doing his thing when he was alive, I wouldn't be doing my thing right now. And he always had a vision to combine news and editorial and education about California workers' compensation and applicable news to California workers' compensation. And it is since his vision has branched out to other states, his vision has branched out to this podcast, his vision has branched out to webinars, and I am so proud and happy to be doing what I am doing with this podcast and this wonderful group of people where we are at full strength right now. And there's no question in my mind that this could not have been done without David DiPaolo. He is the founder of Work Comp Central. There would be no Work Comp Central without David DiPaolo. And as a visionary, as someone who saw questions, comments, concerns, news, education being the number one, and I do mean the number one online location for California workers' compensation, I very much thank David DiPaolo for starting Work Comp Central. Now, of course, Work Comp Matters is not 100% workers' compensation. I think our format originally started about a year and a half ago, Mike. We were probably 50% California workers' compensation, 25% employment, labor, and maybe 25% California news that interests people around the water cooler. And although we've kept the basic same broadcasting, production, engineering format, the content of the show has developed more into like 50 or 75% California news and entertainment and what people want to hear, and maybe 25% employment and labor. And the reason is because that's what people enjoy, and I want to put out what people enjoy. Obviously, I wouldn't want to put out a product that people don't listen to. In fact, I was just speaking to someone in court today. I asked him if he had heard the show. He said yes. I said, did you like it? Did you not like it? And he goes, well, I'll tell you, I listened to a few minutes of it, and I like that you guys didn't argue, you didn't step over each other, and you had a certain chemistry. And we've kept the same formula for the past year and a half, but we've tweaked it a little, sort of like if you're working on your car or your bicycle and you got a couple of screws, you got a couple of nuts, you tighten them up, you drive the car, you ride the bicycle, it loosens up a little, and maybe you don't tighten it quite so much, or maybe you make it a little looser, you make that ride down that hill really comfortable. And that's what I've said we are. We're a small little snowball rolling downhill, getting a little bigger and a little better each week. And I'm really proud to be doing the Work Comp Matters podcast for Work Comp Central. Okay, enough about me, enough about my Memorial Day hero. Take it to the man on my right. Who's your hero that you want to talk about, or heroes that you want to talk about tonight?
Well, it's plural. I'd have to say my dad. Actually, my dad and two of his brothers and my mom's brother all saw gnarly action in World War II. My dad flew bombers and bombed Nazis, which I consider a noble profession. One of his brothers was in the army and saw action in Europe, liberating towns on the way to Berlin. Of course, the Ruskies got there first, and it took them nearly 45 years to leave. Another of my dad's brothers enlisted in the Marines the day after Pearl Harbor at 17. With the permission of his parents, he was trained for a few months and then dropped off at Guadalcanal in the Pacific, where the line was drawn. He survived Guadalcanal, but later got whacked. On the island of Peleliu, he came back, but he wasn't the same. My mom's brother flew fighters off carriers in the Pacific. It took him a while to get back to normal, but he eventually got there. For some reason, my dad liked telling us stories of his wartime experience. The brother who got whacked on Peleliu was another story. My brother asked this uncle one time about his service in the war. The uncle said, quote, "John, there's two things you need to know about a war. Number one, never be in one. Number two, never ask anybody anything who's ever been in one." End quote. Tom Brokaw called them the greatest generation. I certainly agree.
And whoever decided to put war and romance together probably had never been in a war or anything like that, because how can you romanticize people around you being blown to bits? I just don't understand. Next in line, Ted, did you want to talk about one or more people that are your heroes?
Absolutely. First and foremost is my father, the original Theodore R. Durden. I was born on June 16, 1959, 1958. My father unfortunately died when I was on September 13th, 1959. So the tragedy is I never got a chance to know him. But what I have learned about him has been immeasurable, and I hold very near and dear to my heart. He was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marines, hardcore. And it was interesting because as hard and tough a man as he was, when I've come to understand, he was also a very sensitive man. He wrote poetry to my mother. I love the story of the way he romanced my mother, because when he met my mother, she was a nurse, a registered nurse working at an Army hospital. Now he saw her, fell in love with her, and as soon as he got better, he proposed and made her quit. Because he said, I'll be damned if you're going to be sponge bathing any more of these other Marines. The only man I want you to see naked is going to be me.
All right.
Yeah, I come to find out that my father and I have a lot in common, because as hard as I am, I'm still quite the romantic. I write poetry, I paint, I'm an avid reader, very much a family man. I have a great deal of admiration for my father and the legacy that he left behind, because I'm the youngest of 6 children. And, with his passing and, of course, with the veteran benefits, my mother was able to take care of the rest of us. He served his country proudly. He died during the Korean War. And he is my Memorial Day hero.
That was wonderful.
That's great.
That was absolutely wonderful. And last but not least, to my left, Robert, one or more people that are your heroes.
Yeah, for Memorial Day, I mean, I have friends currently that serve because I'm a younger generation than the rest of you, and we didn't have a draft, obviously. You guys know that about my generation. For me, growing up, I would say someone who gave perspective as to what's important would be Pat Tillman, if you guys recall. Mm-hmm. Because for my generation, he was, we're all watching football, we're all the guys, right? We've never had a draft, but we consider ourselves to be All-American. And for someone to make such a sacrifice, for us at the time, it was huge because, we were just kids, we were in high school. Now, my family has served, but we're first-generation Americans, so we didn't serve in the American military, right? And over there, it's not volunteer basis either. It's required. So we don't have anything.
Talking about Russia?
Yes. My grandfather was and he's still around. He was an aircraft engineer, and my father was like a private or something. They just force you. They fled. So not exactly for them.
Did he see any combat?
No. My grandfather, we're Jewish. He lived through the Holocaust. He's a Ukrainian. So I want to say thank you to your grandfather or father for, bombing those Nazis. It's much appreciated on this side of the table, trust me. I might not be around.
Thank you very much for that, my boy. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and independent contractors. We haven't forgotten about you, even though California wants to kick your ass out of California. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other computer management system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached, money-back guaranteed $1 a day A1 Law. And if you want those concert, sports, or theater tickets, front row, sold out, it doesn't matter. Give Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. We're at the Round Table at Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California. We've all given our takes on our Memorial Day heroes. There's one person left. He's still a licensed California attorney, 45 years and still going strong. However, heck, He's halfway across the world, Munich, Germany. What can I say? Without further ado, talking about his Memorial Day heroes is Mr. John Scalia.
Hi, this is John with the Work Comp International Report from Munich. I'm recording this on Monday afternoon in Munich, so it is now Monday all day over America. It is Memorial Day. Memorial Day is the day we remember America's war dead and remember their service to the country. Fortunately for my family, which has a distinguished record of service to the country, none of them died in combat. My dad and my uncle both were in the South Pacific and saw plenty of combat. My oldest son served as a Black Hawk pilot in the U.S. military. So their day is Veterans Day when we remember military service. But what is it that we think about on Memorial Day? What is it that we actually are honoring? The answer, of course, is courage. And what is courage? Well, it's hard to get a better definition of courage than the one Socrates gave over 2,000 years ago. He said, "Courage is a man willing to remain at his post and to defend himself against the enemy without running away." That's pretty simple. Well, who's the enemy? Well, in war, it's pretty simple. The country tells you who the enemy is. The enemy is on the other side. The enemy are the people you were shooting at. Who is the enemy in peacetime? Well, that's different. The enemy in peacetime, I think, is injustice, inequality. The enemy in peacetime is obstacles to progress, obstacles to building a better, more fair, more just, more equal society. And while everyone would agree in general terms, everybody disagrees on specific terms. I reflect back to when I was in law school. My best friend in law school was not only a Republican, but he was a Vietnam vet. He'd been an officer, he'd served in combat, and he'd been in firefights. He was my best friend. He knew I was a student radical. He knew I organized student strikes. And yet, we were best friends. I wonder sometimes what has happened to America where that used to be possible and where nobody really thought it was that strange. And we're still in touch to this day. I look back then and I remember that in 1960 we had a president named John F. Kennedy who wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning book called Profiles in Courage. Today we have a president who wrote a best-selling book called Art of the Deal. I don't think that's progress. So who should our heroes be? Well, I have a suggestion for 5 of them at least. First, John F. Kennedy himself. He was an actual war hero, and he certainly died in the service of his country because he was in Houston doing presidential business, Dallas, when he got killed. 2, I'd suggest Jackie Robinson. We all know Robinson integrated American League or Major League Baseball. And we all know that he had promised Branch Rickey, the owner of the Dodgers, that he would endure racial taunts for 3 years before he responded at all. That takes courage. But even before that, when he was an officer in the U.S. Army, Robinson refused to get to the back of the bus. This was long before Rosa Parks. He was putting his military career and perhaps his employment in civilian life at risk. But he knew what the right thing to do was. It was not to go to the back of the bus. I would suggest Martin Luther King. We all know who Martin Luther King was and what he did. Sometimes we forget that he was in Memphis the day he was assassinated because of a garbage workers' strike, because those people were mostly black. But Martin Luther King was against injustice for any people, and he stood up for what he believed in, and he was killed in the line of service to his country and to the world. I would suggest Katherine Johnson, the African-American mathematician who was instrumental in the American space program, and who America wouldn't even admit had done it, and it came out in a movie called Hidden Figures. Because it was okay to have a former Nazi, Werner von Braun, in charge of the American space program, but God forbid you should admit we needed an African-American woman. She put up with a lot, and she did her job extremely well. I would suggest Alan Bean, the astronaut who just died, who had the courage to leave a secure position in the U.S. Navy to become an artist. And when one of his friends said, "Well, can you earn a living as an artist?" he said, "Well, if I can't, I'll go work at Jack in the Box." That takes a certain amount of courage. So there you have it. The good news about history is that we can not only learn about the mistakes of the past, but if we go back, we can learn what we did right in the past. And hopefully we can repeat what we did right. And that's the view from Munich this week.
And thank you very much for contributing, John. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to WorkCom Matters, the central location for all your news, questions, comments, concerns for you employees, employers, and of course we haven't forgotten about you, independent contractors. We've got some news coming up dealing with Harvey Weinstein, Roseanne Barr, the NBA Finals, California Insurance Commissioner. Uber is in the news. Lemonade Insurance. You want to listen if any of you have not heard of Lemonade Insurance. Tesla is in the news. We've got, of course, the homeless, marijuana, and there's one story left. And with the first news story of the night, he's my right-hand man. He keeps me in check and out of trouble, hopefully, at least 90% of the time, Mr. Mike Zyma.
Thank you, Steve. 8,000 Starbucks across the country today closed for an afternoon of racial sensitivity training. After Brandon Dixon ordered his usual at the Rittenhouse Square store, a venti-size Emperor's Cloud and mist green tea, and paused while considering whether the customer service had noticeably changed. The baristas were still friendly, but their pleasantries came with extra pep, not just to him, but to everyone who walked through the door looking for a boost of caffeine. When a construction worker from outside walked in without making a purchase and asked for a code to the bathroom, a barista quickly obliged, adding, "You're welcome."
Ted, I know you're chomping at the bit. You want to comment on this, so take a minute or two or three. Go for it, my man.
Okay. It's like I said, it's just political correctness just run amok, in my opinion. Really and truly. You close down all these Starbucks for a day of racial sensitivity training, and ooh, look at what we got. We get to go to the bathroom now. Wow. What a big difference that makes. Now, if the Starbucks had bathrooms, one marked black, one marked white, okay, then maybe it would make a big deal. Maybe that would be something different and something to really talk about. But the fact that this whole thing stemmed from an event or an occurrence that was characterized as racist is ridiculous because, like I said, you can't do anything about inbred racism any more than you can legislate morality. Closing it down, having all these people who are Starbucks fanatics not having access to their coffee, which I'm sure they went through withdrawal, but not being able to do that just so you can try to teach people how to be more racially sensitive, I just think it was just a waste of time. And in my opinion, it was more a public relations stunt more than anything else. Period.
Okay, now I know Robert wants to comment, so give me like 60 seconds from my comment first. I don't know if Mike wants to comment. I love good coffee. I drink good coffee. I probably drink too much coffee on a daily basis, but 90 to 95% of it I have at my home. When I go marketing once or twice a week, I'll buy Starbucks coffee. I'll buy other types of coffee. I bring it home. Less than twice a month do I actually go to a coffee place for coffee. And now with Starbucks, and I might just start going to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf because it's going to get so crowded in there. People can go in there anytime they want, not order anything, and just chill for a couple hours. I probably won't get a seat. Robert, what's your take, my boy?
Well, I actually don't go to Starbucks. I haven't gone to Starbucks in a long time, I got to say. It's got to be at least a year.
You're a racist, that's one.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I don't know. There could be people of color in there or people that are just too sensitive to people of color.
You don't even like dark coffee, I bet.
It's true, too. I pout. That thing's got more sugar than coffee. Ted's killing me here. But making me look bad. That said, doesn't Starbucks have this policy where they're not going to kick anybody out anymore,
That's
right?
exactly what I'm saying.
So when it starts raining here in California, I know it's rare, but I presume there's going to be a bunch of homeless people inside?
There could be anybody inside. I mean, why do I want the public part, the reception of the Starbucks is less than, 200 square feet? And if I want to go in there for a cup of coffee and sit down for 15 minutes, do I want to wait in line for 10 or 15 minutes? Then once I get my coffee, have to wait another 15 minutes for a seat? I'm going somewhere else.
That's why I mentioned last time that there might be a more private coffee shop idea kind of that requires a subscription, like Costco, just to check people at the door. So you don't have to sit there and drink coffee next to some homeless guy who just wandered in off the street. Maybe he's violent. Maybe he's got drugs on him. Maybe he just smells and he's going to ruin your experience of going out, right? You can't write your screenplay that way. I tell you that, all right? So that's going to be a tough one there. Or, it could feed the characters. I don't know.
Well, I don't go to Starbucks.
No, does anyone actually go to Starbucks here?
I go once in a while. Yeah, once in a
Scott,
once
we got
in
the
a
guy on the
while.
board. Okay, so you know what? And honestly, I think reasonable people see these news articles about the fact that California's got the most homeless in the state, in the country. 55,000, and now you're going to be allowing anybody to walk in your doors. Why, that just seems like a magnet, and what's going to get attracted.
Actually, California is 100 to 110,000 homeless, with half of them 55,000 in Southern California.
Okay,
yeah,
and I think it just needs to be qualified.
LA County.
It needs to be qualified. Anybody could go into a Starbucks, but the whole issue is you have to be a patron. You have to buy something. So now I guess you don't have to now.
Yeah, and if you overstay your welcome, you have the threat of police, right? So if that's the case, a lot of people will avoid that, right? So just the fear of the law will sometimes keep people in check. I wouldn't be going to Starbucks now. And in the future, I'd probably go to someplace else, someplace where, if somebody's loitering, they would have kicked them out by now, right?
Yeah, but I also think that this whole racial sensitivity, I also think there might be a backlash or an unforeseen situation in this sense because of the fact that now the public has at large been made aware that this is an issue. Who's to say someone won't come in and intentionally try to spark some sort of racial outrage?
I guarantee you that is going to happen.
Yeah, somebody's going to test that water. Somebody's going to push that envelope, and then we're going to be right back here
Give them an
again.
inch, take a mile, baby. How far can you push? All good points. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters, the number one location for all you independent contractors as well as employees and employers. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. Additionally, we've got news stories coming up. Harvey Weinstein indicted. Roseanne Barr. ABC says we want nothing to do with you. We've got a short story on the NBA Finals. Of course, the California Insurance Commissioner says you insurance companies charge less. Uber crashed in Arizona and Tesla crashed on autopilot. For those of you who don't know, we have a story on Lemonade Insurance Company and, of course, more talk about the homeless and marijuana on Work Comp Matters. It's time for our musical break, and we'll be back after La Familia, Mr. Glenn Laughlin and the Cherry Blue Storms on Work Comp Matters.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far? Far as the eye can see. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. naturally happy to be that way. Now that you found another key, what are you going to play? Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in every brown bag inside too. What a thing to do. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people?
Glenn Laughlin and the Cherry Blue Storms on Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, employers, and independent contractors. My name is Steve Appel, and we're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get concert, sports, theater tickets, give Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. Well, for the fourth consecutive year, the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers will meet in the NBA Finals. Game 1 is Thursday, tomorrow.
Snore alert.
You think so? Snore?
Well,
Both teams are playing really well.
I
LeBron's
thought
playing great.
I thought LeBron
okay.
brings
Well.
in interest, brings in
Yeah.
sells
Well,
tickets.
deja vu all over
he
again.
does, but here's a downside. As great a player as LeBron is, he can't do it by himself. He muscled
That's absolutely
Cleveland.
correct.
Yeah, I
He
think
did.
that's
he muscled them past. No,
that's
he,
the draw right now.
No,
Can he do this by
no,
himself?
no.
But
I'm
he
gonna
muscled him at the right time. I saw Game 7.
But
and
here's
they-
the problem. Here's the problem, though. The problem is the Warriors are a lot deeper. They have a lot more weapons.
That's for
Yes,
sure.
they do.
And that's the problem. Do you know right now?
Warriors are stacked.
The odds right now in Vegas is 650 to 1.
Are you serious?
That Cleveland will not win. That
No.
Golden State will take it.
6
Absolutely.
to 1.
I heard 650 to 1 if you believe that the Warriors will take it
I
in 5,
understand.
and I think we'll take it in 5
5 games.
games.
5 games.
Right. Me personally, I think they'll probably sweep them.
There is a
I
chance
really
that Warriors
do.
could sweep the
I
Cavs.
really do.
I understand that.
I really do.
But LeBron has been. I mean,
Oh, he's been a monster.
the best player on earth.
No,
period. Right?
He's been a monster. He's
Yeah.
been an absolute monster, and I think it would have been a different game, even with the Warriors, if Chris Paul hadn't been hurt.
That's true.
I think it would have been a totally different
It's
game.
been a total disappointment his entire career. He's never got a ring, right?
No, he's never got
No,
it.
he never has, and
Never gotten this far in the play.
I'm not that overly impressed with him. I didn't care that much for him when he was with the Clippers. I really didn't.
He always seemed to be dribbling the ball off his leg in crucial situations.
Thank you.
In the playoffs. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. As vaunted a playmaker as he is, he was horrible. He was always coughing up the ball.
I think when he was with the Clippers, he was asked to do a lot. Blake Griffin couldn't do much. DeAndre Jordan. These were people you couldn't give the ball to. You had to make a lot of plays. Okay. Chris Paul was great. What does he shoot? Like 95% from the free throw line. He's got great handles, great vision. Unbelievable player. I wish the trade with the Lakers would have gone through, and David Stern didn't block it before
I
he
know.
retired.
That
okay?
was the
Yeah,
that was the
that's right.
end of
right.
that was the end of the Lakers when the Chris Paul trade was
And he
voided.
was younger back then. So can you imagine James Harden and Chris Paul now versus Kobe younger and Chris Paul younger?
And
wow.
if Buss was alive, that trade would not have been voided.
No, I agree with you 100 grand. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lakers, I'm a Lakers guy, but I would say for sure Golden State. I love basketball. All basketball. I watched all the series. Golden State's really deep, right? I think LeBron's got a chance. I always think the
Well, he
single best
certainly has
player.
a chance.
Yeah, if you're going to rank the best
Slim,
players,
fat, none,
it would be
I guess.
LeBron number 1, and then like 6 Golden State players in a row.
I tell
at
you what
2
I'd
through
like to
7,
see.
right?
I'll
pretty much.
take 5-1 right now. If any, I got $100 bill right now. If someone wants to give me 5-1 on LeBron winning, I'll take that.
I wouldn't take the bet. I wouldn't put anything past LeBron. I wouldn't bet against LeBron. I think putting your money against LeBron is always going to be a risky bet. I'd rather put my money with LeBron. Most
I'd
of the
love
time,
to see him
okay?
in purple and gold.
Oh yeah. A guy can
but
dream, huh?
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't. It would be great, but I don't think
We're talking a little more smaller dreams. Like we're apparently going to sign Lonzo's brother, LiAngelo.
We're also talking sports for pretty much the first time on WorkCom Matters, and I think it's run its course. Who's got the next news story?
I think I actually have that regarding Mr. Weinstein.
Oh, please do.
Perfect.
Please do.
All right. Well, long awaited. Harvey Weinstein was indicted Wednesday by a Manhattan grand jury on charges of rape and a criminal sexual act in connection with allegations by 2 women, prosecutors announced. Quote, this indictment brings the defendant another step closer to accountability for the crimes of violence with which he is now charged, close quote, said Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance. The indictment came just hours after Weinstein's attorney announced the disgraced producer would not appear before the grand jury, saying he didn't have enough time or information to prepare him for testimony.
My understanding is the prosecution is pretty sure of their evidence in this case. Otherwise, they wouldn't have filed it so quickly, relatively quickly.
My understanding is that potted plants will not be allowed in the courtroom.
What do you guys think? I hate to use a bad pun, but you think he's going to get off?
I do not. I think he's going to get Cosby. He's going to get Cosby.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. Yeah, I think they'll be in the same cell.
I don't know because they haven't really discussed what evidence they have, and we know that you can indict a ham sandwich if you're the grand jury. Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this means nothing. Okay. This means that they were planning on going forward, and looks like they really are going forward. Okay. Great. Have they discussed specifically what they have except for somebody's allegations? Do they have any
They're not showing their hand at
No,
all.
they're not showing their hand.
At least
Thank
not
you.
yet.
Well, obviously they have to show it to the defense. That's Brady material, right? You can,
Well, they
we're not
just
playing-
filed it.
Yeah, and now it's time to go, or now it's time to show and go.
No, I'm
right?
sure they'll disclose.
Do
it.
you
I
Yeah,
have no
think-
doubt
they're
about
probably
that.
doing that right now.
Yeah, and then for sure Weinstein's going to have some good attorneys, right? We could all agree on that.
Of course,
So
absolutely.
a good attorney doesn't just let you go to trial. They make a few motions to try to knock this thing out ahead of time, correct?
Yeah.
So now this is the prosecution's free swing off the T-ball, right? Because it's a ham sandwich out to the grand jury here. But now it's Weinstein's defense turn to demand all the material that the
Are they going
prosecution
to
has.
start to?
Well, due
Are they going to
process-
start to
due
try
process
it
will
in
unfold.
public? Are they going to try it in public?
Well, not just try it in public. They're going to start digging here. And if you can find something that pokes a big enough hole, you ask the judge, you dismiss these charges. If they're entirely based on someone's allegations, right? Now her mental history is going to come into a play.
I'll bet you 5-1 that this case goes to trial.
Well, we'll see.
$100, Steve.
You know what?
I'm not betting on this case, but I will take the LeBron bet at 5-1.
This one I am unsure about. This one is very hazy still. I would be very cautious if I was both the prosecution and the defense.
Well, a good attorney will always expect the unexpected.
Hopefully in a criminal trial that doesn't happen as much. That's on TV, that's great. But if you were a criminal defense attorney and the prosecution had possibly exculpatory evidence that they didn't turn over to you, right?
Due process will play out in this case. I see no reason to believe it won't.
Oh, and depending on that's what I'm saying. I don't know the judge. If this judge tells, the morning of, says, okay, in my courtroom, all this media stuff is out the window. You try any of that stuff here, you're going to be in trouble. What do we have as far as hard facts?
Do you think
that's not much? You're about to get kicked out of my
Do you
courtroom
think
entirely.
they will sequester the jury?
No, come on. That would be unbelievable for this type of case.
Well,
I think.
I think it's too late at this point anyway with everything that's been in the news. It would be pointless.
They didn't even try to change the venue.
Right.
They're handling this with Manhattan.
Right.
Okay.
So questioning the jury, I don't think that's.
I would actually say that the prosecution in this case is trying to use the media against Mr. Weinstein. This is kind
They
of a
haven't
reverse.
done anything except file the charges, indict him.
Oh, please, this guy's guilty in the court of public opinion before he gets started,
Not
right?
because of the prosecution.
No, but now, in one way or another, this guy, Mr. Weinstein, is going to have a hard time finding a fair trial. And I want to see
I
him.
doubt that.
If he's guilty, listen, I want to see him convicted. I just think that it might be difficult to put it this way. everyone was making allegations against Weinstein before these charges. It's almost as if they looked for something to prosecute him for that's within time. That's what it looks like from an outsider's perspective, that they're digging. But I don't know. But if they filed it, they got past the indictment stage, it means they must have something more than just their desire to prosecute.
All good points here on Work Comp Matters. My name is Steve Appel, and we're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other computer management system on the friggin' planet, give me a call, 818-357-4120, for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get sold-out, yes, even front row concert, sports, and theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. We've got a hot story coming right off the press, and we will get it to you right after this musical break. Without further ado, one of my favorites, the sounds of Susan Scheller.
I sold my soul, I can't get it back. I've fallen down on my lonely track. Something inside is dying to break free. I got chains from wings used to be. I long to break free from this lonesome jubilee. I feel so scarred, it's gone by this party's policy. Yeah. You know, if I could change my ways, baby, I would change today. I got chains, wings used to be. Going high up in the sky. Don't worry, my life ain't gonna pass me by. It's the end of the road, my lonely road of dreams untold. I got chains, wings used to be. And just the other night, you know, I found myself talking to Jesus. I whimpered, whining, well, do I changed? And he said, you're gonna ride for free as long as you stick with me. I've been down, but it don't bother me, no. You know I had me some chains where some wings used to be. And he told me just like this, you going high up in the sky. Don't worry, your life ain't gonna pass you by. It was looking like the end of the road, the lonely road of dreams untold. You had chains, your wings used to be. Hang on now. You get high up in the sky. Don't worry, your life ain't gonna pass you by. It's the end of the road, your lonely road of dreams untold. You got chains, wings used to be. I don't mean to sound corrupt, but I've fallen, now I can't get up. I don't mean to sound depraved, not a straight line to my grave. Chains, wings used to be. I got chains where wings used to be. Something inside was dying to break free. I had chains where wings used to be. I learned you gotta keep changing. Take it from me.
The sweet folk rock sounds of Susan Scheller on WorkCom Matters. My name is Steve Appel. We're dialed in for all you employees, employers, and of course, we didn't forget about you independent contractors. We're brought to you by A1 Lawn Santa Monica Tickets, and we have a hot news story off the press. Mr. Walton, get your ass over here, please. Come on, you just gave us the hot news story. I know you don't like to talk. If you don't want to talk, you can give it to someone. Don't give it to me. My reading glasses aren't on. Scott Walton brings us the hot news story off the press, and here it is.
Donald Trump today had a meeting with Kim Kardashian to talk about prison reform and sentencing.
And
Steve.
I was just
had to bring
no,
this-
and I mean I can't think of the last tweet that Donald ever did about Kim Kardashian.
Well, Kanye West, right, is her husband,
yeah.
right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So
Now-
I guess now I see the connection.
Now Ted did a little research into this in the break, and Ted, what did you find? Scott, thank you very much.
Well,
you may go back to your seat and strap yourself in.
Before you introduce Ted's thing, I think Kim Kardashian was talking about potentially asking Trump to pardon Elise Marie Johnson, and Ted's got more information about who that is.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly
now,
correct.
Now, we all have to remember that part of his campaign, Trump talked about having drug dealers and traffickers executed.
Just for your information, we are May 30th, 2018. It's exactly 6:24 Pacific Standard Time. We are breaking the news of this tweet, to the best of my knowledge, before any other media source. Ted, please continue.
So here's the interesting part. Kim Kardashian evidently is trying to rally support to get this woman paroled, to have her conviction overturned and set free.
What's her name again? I'm sorry.
Alice
Paroled or
Marie
pardoned?
Johnson.
Probably both.
Probably.
Well, one or the other, yeah.
Probably both.
Walking
One or
out of
the
there,
other.
yeah.
Now, everyone says, hey, she was a nonviolent drug offender who's currently serving life in prison without parole. She's a great-grandmother. Well, as we say, catch this dirt. This great-grandmother, a first-time nonviolent drug offender, she was heading a multi-million-dollar cocaine ring from 1991 to 1994.
So her only crime is that she got caught, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, she was a bad drug dealer. Bad drug dealer. Bad drug dealer. And now she wants a slap on the wrist? Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? They're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 kilograms of cocaine in this community on a daily basis.
Wow.
Get outta
3,000
here.
kilos?
Yeah, get out of here.
Wow.
Get out of here. And
That's
I'm
the
supposed
volume
to
that she was doing,
Yeah, and
her
I'm supposed to feel sorry for her?
Does it bother anybody that Trump's meeting with Kim Kardashian regarding prison reform?
Well,
Yeah.
that's what the news story says. I suspect they spoke about a few other things. I mean, we're talking about her husband,
Probably so.
Mr. West.
Yeah,
you know.
so maybe social influence is important.
Yeah,
I get
but that's the one thing
But-
that they decided
That's
to
a photo op.
disclose.
That's a photo op with a big
let
beauty
grandma,
cutie.
let
That's all
grandma
that is.
out of prison.
Well,
you know?
on a bigger
Oh.
note, I do know Trump last week pardoned the late boxer Jack Johnson.
I saw that.
Okay,
yes.
and that's long overdue, right? He was prosecuted for what? Taking a
Mann
white
Act.
woman across state
Violation of
lines?
the Mann Act.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because of the fact during those times it was illegal for a black man to be married to a white woman, and he was actually married to her, and they tried to make a deal with him that if he threw a fight with this white boxer at the time, and his name escapes me, that they would not prosecute him. But in the end, he didn't do that.
Yeah.
So
I know they've
so
been
he ended up
asking a
being
lot of
hounded.
presidents for a long time to pardon him. I'm happy that Trump finally got around to it, but this pardon might be one too far. Okay,
No, it
I
is.
think he should stick to one pardon a month. Okay,
Right. And what kills me about this is they're talking about her sad story. Here's her sad story. She got in the drug trade at a particularly bad time in her life. Does anybody ever do it at a good time? But anyway, her son had died in a motorcycle crash, and her marriage had ended in divorce. She had lost her job, causing a financial strain. I don't know. That sounds like Biggie Smalls' story. Do you think?
Yeah, that's actually kind of like if you
Give
know
me
how
a
to
break.
rap, you really got yourself one there.
I couldn't find a job fast enough to take care of my family. I felt like a failure. So hey, I became the head of a multi-million-dollar cocaine ring.
What's Grandma's name again, please?
Alice Marie Johnson. She can go pound sand. My heart bleeds peanut butter.
There you go. Heart bleeds peanut butter. All right.
Kilos of cocaine. That's a lot.
You
of
heard
cocaine.
it here first on Work Comp Matters, May 30th, 5:25 p.m. We not only broke the story, but also gave you our editorial opinions as well. Who's got the next news story, please?
I do. Roseanne Barr has been fired from ABC, and her show Roseanne has been canceled after calling former President Barack Obama's advisor, Valerie Jarrett, an offspring of the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes. Roseanne's Twitter statement is abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values, and we have decided to cancel her show. ABC Entertainment President Channing Dungey, the first African-American executive to lead a U.S. broadcast network, just announced. Barr then apologized to Jarrett, blamed her tweet on Ambien, and said she would never tweet again. Well, needless to say, within 24 hours, she was retweeting, and at that time attacking some of her co-stars, and just kind of lost her mind.
I think Robert should write an open letter to the Ambien Corporation offering his services at a reasonable price to sue Roseanne Barr for defamation of character.
I'm just hoping not to repeat it right now. Okay, I just want to keep from being sued.
But
Ambien said that racism was not a side effect.
A side effect,
right?
exactly. I thought that was great.
But you know what, guys? I think there's not enough discussion about psychotropic drugs, the effects it's having on our society, right? All these mass shooters are always on some sort of psych med. No one ever wants to talk about it.
This story is not the story to do it with, because we talk about the homeless. We talk about those people that are without services. These drugs, certainly when prescribed under the supervision of a doctor, can be very useful, very valuable to getting someone back into society. But quite often, more often than not, they are abused and not used properly. As far as this story goes, if I were Roseanne, the first thing I would have said was, rather than blaming it on drugs or prescription meds, I would have said, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. If you want, kick me off the show. But there's 200 other people that you're putting out of work because of one mistake that I made. Hell, call it the John Goodman show or whatever. But don't put 200 people out of work because of my mistake. But otherwise, she starts blaming people. Does that sound familiar to you at all? Take some personal responsibility, please.
Exactly.
Boss, she did post a couple other tweets that I saw on the internet, which said, I apologize. I'm not looking for an excuse. I didn't mean to blame the drug, just saying what brought it. But, I mean, we know that's not really genuine.
But here's my thing. Just two quick things. I love the fact that Tom Arnold came out and said, look, I told you guys decades ago that she was a racist. You didn't believe me, and instead I got blackballed. Now that what I said has been proven true, can I get a job in Hollywood?
Who said that?
Tom Arnold, her ex-husband.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, that's her ex-husband.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, and the second thing, I don't just listen to what someone says. I listen to what they don't say. And in this situation here, while she said I shouldn't have said it was vile, it was meant to be a joke, at no point in time did she ever say, what I said does not represent the person that I am. I am not a racist. She's never said that.
I didn't see it, but
she's had plenty of opportunity. And so if you don't disavow that you're a racist, I'm sorry. Then the converse must be true. You must be a racist.
But have you guys followed Roseanne a bit about her opinions generally?
Well, I did some Googling, and she's been whacked for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. I've known this for quite some time. If you get into it, she's talking about Illuminati mind control. I'm not kidding, guys. It's out there. So for her to for a sudden say something that is, now it's racist, like now we have to say that her opinions are too much for us. It's like, where were you when she was talking about mind control and she was spinning off the earth like a top? I mean, you decided to give her a show, right?
Well, that's not racism.
No, it's not. But, you're going to get, when you get something like that with somebody, what else comes in that bag of tricks, right? There's all sorts of things. There's racism, there's prejudice, there's mental illness. A person is represented by how they act all the time, by the company they keep, right? It only takes a moment to change who you are in the eyes of people. So they look for that. Tom Arnold apparently told everybody No one believed him because he was a griping ex, right? And honestly, you still don't want to believe a griping ex, even though after it's found out to be true, you go, I guess I was wrong at the time. Yeah, but sending the message by firing everybody, canceling the show.
That's sad because there were a lot of people whose livelihood relied on that show. I like what Steve said. If you go to come up with some alternative, even I heard some news journalist said, hey, call the show Dan Without Roseanne. Just call it something. Just do something
People would
to
watch.
preserve the show. Absolutely.
What about Trump talking about that he didn't get an apology from...
What about it?
That was ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting because he was touting the show like he was a cause for a lot of the ratings, right?
Yes.
That my conservative presidency has now ushered in this new hit show which represents my viewers, and she's a representative of that. And now it's like, maybe she's not a representative of that. Maybe I should have looked into the craziness she was saying pretty much all up until that point. It was all crazy. Mind control, Illuminati, doing this, doing that.
Absolutely.
Oh, but now he said something racist. Now it's too much. It's like, you probably should have looked into that earlier there, Don.
Yeah, but again, he was quiet on it. He didn't come out against her. He didn't say anything. So that speaks volumes as well.
Well, he was making himself the victim, right? He was saying, where's my apology? If you're going to apologize to Valerie Jarrett, where's mine? He might have a point in the sense that there's a lot of hate going his direction. Some of it's so bad that obviously it's beyond the pale. But that's a different situation. That's not this case.
That's politics.
Right? Yeah.
Because, again, you can look at any president, Obama, Reagan, everybody has had to suffer through that.
Absolutely good points, and I thank you all. We got one last news story, which I have in front of me, and then we're going to end the show. Lemonade, the insurance company powered by artificial intelligence and behavioral economics, announced it has rewritten the generations-old insurance policy. This is not a joke, folks. This is not fake news. You're hearing this for the first time. You got it on Work Comp Matters. The new insurance policy, called Policy 2.0, will be open for edits from the wisdom of the crowd in what is the world's first open-sourced insurance policy. While most insurance companies copyright their policies, Lemonade has done the opposite and made it an open source. Lemonade's new policy is not only open for the community to edit, it is also open to all of the Lemonade competitors to use under the GNU free documentation license. So here you have it announced. You heard it first on Work Comp Matters. You've got the first insurance policy run by artificial intelligence.
Insurance company run by artificial intelligence for reals.
This is for reals. This is for reals. And
guess I won't be getting a job there.
Yeah. What can I tell you? It's been a pleasure, folks. I thank you very much. Once again, make sure you come and listen to us next week, because we're going to be talking bankruptcy for the first time on Work Comp Matters with attorney Dave Hagan. Any questions, comments, or concerns you have, feel free to give us a call. 818-357-4120. Of course, we're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. For my right-hand man, keeping me in check and out of trouble at least 90% of the time, Mr. Mike Zyma, the best-dressed man in California workers' compensation, Mr. Ted Durden, my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron. Scott Walton of Uncle's Studio is on the board working out the technical difficulties. Back in Munich, Germany, still a 45-year licensed attorney for California, Mr. John Scalia. And for all the good people back at Work Comp Central that continue to approve and support of this project and David DiPaolo's vision, including but not limited to Leaf File and Jake Paris. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you next week for another edition of Work Comp Matters.